with me now. I'm so happy to have here in studio. It's
I'm
a
so
rarity.
happy to be here in studio.
Do I even need to introduce you, Jen
We also
Psaki?
dressed in a very Americana way, which we didn't even coordinate
I
on.
know, but we have coordinated before. Anyway, Jen Psaki, of course, for all of you, you're watching her show right before this one, host of Jen Psaki, MSNBC here. So let me ask you about the mood. What do you think? We're going to get to that poll, which was pretty stunning. But the mood inside the Harris campaign, the confidence that they're feeling in the next 48 hours, what do you think their strategy needs to be to keep it high?
Well, for them right now, it's all about getting voters out to the polls. They have a superior ground operation to the Trump's team. We'll see how much ground games and ground operations matter when we see the outcome on Tuesday. But they knocked on hundreds of thousands of doors, made hundreds of thousands of phone calls. That's what their focus is on right now. If you're them, you feel good about a couple of things. Certainly that Iowa poll is, hey, I don't think they're betting on Iowa at all. I don't think they're betting they're going to win it. But you feel good about that, not because of the Iowa specificity of it, but because Iowa is a very white rural state. There are other very white rural states that they do need to win in the Midwest, like, say, Wisconsin, for example. Minnesota has some white rural parts. But you also feel good, and you touched on this, about the late deciders. And I know Mark's going to talk about that later. Can't wait to see what he says. But there was a New York Times poll today, Siena poll, that also showed that she's winning by about 16 points among late deciders, including a huge margin in the Sun Belt, which are states that are part of the battleground states, but they aren't states that are part of the blue wall. If you're them, you want to expand that road to 270 as much as you can. So those are a couple things they feel pretty confident about. She's had a better last 2 weeks than Trump has,
for sure. Can you ask quickly, because you mentioned ground game, has there ever been an election when ground game does not matter?
No, but listen, they've invested in it. They have Jen O'Malley Dillon. There's no one better at running a ground operation, overseeing that. They have, and this is a lot of credit to President Biden and his campaign for really investing in that. They just have a far better apparatus than the Trump team does. And the Trump team is betting on low propensity voters, especially younger men of color. We'll see if they need a ground game to turn them out or not. We'll see on Tuesday.
What do you think is the most plausible path today to 270?
Well, the blue wall still feels like the most plausible path if you look at the consistency of polls. But we really don't know. I mean, look at Iowa, right?
Yeah, right.
Nobody's betting on that. That's on the Democratic side. It does tell you that maybe she's doing better among those demographics than you think. So I would say probably the blue wall. But a lot of these other states remain in play: North Carolina, Georgia, Nevada. So there's lots of ways to get there.
But again, you're not putting a lot of stock into Iowa. It's not like you think Democrats should expect.
No. I don't think she's going to win Iowa. But I think it's interesting because it tells you that maybe she can do better than expected among white rural voters.
Okay. There was a Trump aide who told, based on not revealing their name, the way things are feeling on the Trump campaign plane. And things have shifted somewhat. He's been known to come out and talk to anybody traveling there and give his stories and retell them again and again. And it's been a lot more of a vibe shift downward, much more quiet on that plane. What does that tell you? The mood is subdued, they say.
Well, I mean, I think it tells you that, one, they've had a bad last 2 weeks, and they have not held back on my views of the threat of Trump, but they've had a bad closing last 2 weeks. When you have your former chief of staff saying you're a fascist, you have a 5-hour, bizarre, concerning, alarming rally that includes a comedian that has single-handedly, massively offended the Puerto Rican population.
And we talk about it all week.
And then you did, right, and then the Trump team did nothing to apologize or really walk that back. That's not a good way to close a campaign. They know, they look at the polls that they're still, we don't know what the outcome is going to be on Tuesday, but it does tell you, it also tells you when Trump goes out and says completely insane, offensive, alarming things like he just did at that rally, which I just asked Speaker Pelosi about, it tells you that he's also unhinged, which we've seen repeatedly, but it tells you that he's in an unhinged state of mind.
So do you get the sense that he is being told the truth about polls, or that they are cherry picking his campaign and his aides as to what they tell him? I mean, how do you know which way he'll react, right?
Well, look, I mean, I assume Donald Trump has an iPad, and we know he has a phone, right? So he sees the polls. He sees what he wants to see. They have internal polling. I don't know what their internal polling says, just like I don't know what the Harris internal polling says. But, you know, he is no longer surrounded himself with people who are telling him the truth in a variety of ways. So who knows what people are actually telling him. But I have every confidence he's actually reading and consuming political coverage and content himself.
Give me a sense of your greatest fears and your greatest hopes. You can start with the former if we want to start off positive.
Oh,
what happens on Election Day and immediately thereafter?
You know, my greatest hope, what I think is one of the most exciting things to watch, is the role of women's power in politics right now. You see that in the gender gap in these polls. You see that in women. And I don't just mean having women at the top of the ticket, which is certainly significant. If a first woman, and I can tell my 9-year-old daughter, yes, there has been a woman who's been elected president of the United States, but the power of women in speaking out about their rights, abortion access, that's incredibly powerful and compelling to watch, I think. You know, biggest fear is that, to me, the choice is quite clear here, but not enough people recognize that. And it's ultimately about getting more people out to vote for your person over the other.
And that maybe that unfortunately carries past just Election Day and the immediate days thereafter, the fact that there is a country that does not see eye to eye.
Well, I think what everybody should prepare themselves for, and I've been telling my friends and my family this, even if Harris wins, it's not over. Right. Because everybody should fully expect, because he's told us he's going to do this, and Steve Bannon and others have told us he's going to do this. He will challenge the outcome. He will claim he won. He will sow doubt. They will claim fraud, even when it doesn't exist. Everybody should be prepared for that. When people say, I'm so tired, I can't wait to get till Wednesday, everybody needs to kind of, they need to guard their energies, because it's going to be longer than that.
Yeah. Speaking of someone who needs a lot of energy, do you have a room here in the building? Yeah. Because I mean, you can't not see you.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, I just did my show. Yeah. I'll be back tonight from 7 to 9.
You will indeed.
Rachel Maddow, Steve Kornacki are hosting an amazing thing. Yeah, and then we're going to do a special at 9 with lots of fun people, including Billy Eichner and other smart politicos.
And fortunately, I'm so happy to have you lead into this show every single Sunday, everybody. You can always watch Inside with Jen Psaki, of course, at noon, right before this newscast. Mondays, 8 p.m. as well, here on MSNBC. Thank you for joining me. I wish you could stay all 3 hours. You're busy. Thank you.